Welcome to the Behind the Art Inspiration podcast, a sneak peek into the studio practices of all types of artists. Conversations for collectors who love to listen to the banter and creative process of international artists. I'm your host, Caroline Karp. Let's get to it. Well, hello, everyone. This is season 2, episode 6 of the Behind the Art Inspiration podcast. And in this episode, I'll be virtually traveling from my Safety Harbor, Florida studio north to DC or thereabouts to speak with Marni Ratner about the art of expressive living. Well, how are you doing, Marni? The first right off, I want to tell everyone this is take 2 on this episode because we had an amazing episode that was interrupted by a lot of audio difficulties. It is still in my YouTube, so you can check it out because there were a lot of golden nuggets there. But welcome back, Marni.
Well, thanks for having me back after that very odd thing, and I'm so excited to see what happens this time. We had a lot to talk about when we shut down filming, right?
Yes. Yeah. So the first thing I want you to talk about is this thing that we're calling the art of expressive living, because we have started making plans, but don't talk about that yet. Just tell us what it is.
Well, the art of expressive living was basically a combination of all different modalities that I do. And I was having one of those, what I call like inspirational moments of who am I? What is it that I do? Why am I on this earth? I mean, we've all had them. And I have tried on many different costumes, as I like to talk about in my expressive living toolbox. What costume, what part of Marni shows up to the world, and how do I want Marni to be received in the world? And yes, I'm talking about myself in third person, but I do kind of see ourselves as characters in our own play, our own novel. So it hit me that my degree as a theater person, as a dancer, as a singer, and as doing a lot of dramaturgy, that I really see the art of expressive living as a lifestyle choice. I really had this big epiphany aha moment is I want to live my life as if I live in a world where I can show up all different variations of myself and share it with other people who are willing to receive that. And how I process all of these little nuggets of my personality and variations of myself. I use all the different arts and modalities to express myself. And I realize when I come across people such as yourself who really uses their artwork to figure themselves out, those are people I really feel full with. I feel safe, complete, seen and heard. And I'm like, why can't everybody do this? And
so what I'm hearing you say is that if for people who are listening and wanting to know about what, kind of what you're talking about and how it is useful for them.
Sure.
I think what I'm hearing you say is that in the art of expressive living and navigating the world that we live in and entering into different situations in life, that living that way comes from creating a toolbox.
Absolutely.
Right? And so in that toolbox are the tools that you have found useful and the tools that I have found useful to just live in a way that, I don't know, kind of keeps us on an even keel of flourishing, but also experiencing what life has brought our way.
100%. So the way that I visualize it for myself, and I'm beginning to really express it, is I do think of myself as a canvas, as a never finished piece of work. I do see myself as a play where I get to be every character in the novel or in the musical, whatever it is, what a metaphor I'm using for myself. And that the tools that are around me to express myself, I can use them to really communicate with the people that I want to communicate. Like in any good play, there's a protagonist and an antagonist. And I realize in my life, I play those parts all of the time So the more that I understand what part I'm playing, what part of Marni is being pushed out into the world, I can easily adjust to find more ease with who I'm communicating with. And the skills that I have learned can be learned by anybody, because I think we live in a world where it is hard to be ourselves sometimes, or we fight so hard to say we are ourselves, but we're really struggling inside. Is there has to be a way where we can use all of us. I want to let me clean that up just a wee bit because I think it's super important. The art of expressive living in my mind helps you discover what it is that you need in the moment to kind of let some extra energy, or find some way to communicate what it is you're trying to communicate by using all of the levels of your body. So I am training people, you are training people, we are talking about things together of how to let the mind take a back seat. And quickly we go into our toolbox and say, well, in this interaction that I'm stepping into, let's use this podcast. What parts of Marni would be best utilized? What parts do I want to bring forth? And what parts do I want to leave in the toolbox? So for me, I know that I have a lot of energy. I get very excited, and I have so much that I'm passionate about and want to share. Is I allow myself to kind of burn up some calories. There's no caffeine near me, lots of water, a lot of sunshine, and I allow myself to ground. So these are all body modalities, body technologies, whatever you want to call them, practices. Let's use practices. So I can be as clear as I can be in my body to hear you, Caroline, when you're speaking to me, and then communicate with people that we should all probably be in a much clearer space when we're trying to communicate.
Right. And so what's interesting is I always feel like a facilitator, or I am a facilitator. And so I know this about you. I know that when upon immediate interaction, Marni needs to wind down a little bit.
Yep. I go through my toolbox. You can see it go.
Yeah. And then we're good. And we can go
Okay.
live. And I have found that leading up to creating a painting, that if I do yoga right beforehand, it's perfect, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes I might not have that opportunity, but I certainly let my mind unwind in some sort of way. And then finally I settle into a piece of art. And that's actually where the unfolding takes place of whatever I have that might be troubling or exciting or just anything. My toolbox is painting. Yeah. So, for example, the piece behind me started off as a line drawing, and then I just started orchestrating things in the between the particles, between the spaces, to come up with a composition. Like working on a mandala. Last time you talked about that you like to do mandala work, or you felt like you needed to do mandala work.
Well, it was such a great, and again, to try to bring it back up is always very difficult because there's a lack of organic and authenticity in it. But for the sake of anybody who's watching this one, I was having a Marni premonition. I was in a very clear space. It was like 6 a.m, walking my dog, and I recognized that my head was overly active and I was feeling a lot of movement in my body. My first go-tos in my toolbox is singing and jogging and dancing, a lot of physical movement. And where I was, that really wasn't an option for me. And just like inspiration, I heard draw a mandala, draw. It's quiet, but you will get a lot of that movement, a lot of that hand-eye coordination, a lot of stuff that our neuroengineering needs to kind of off-put that amount of energy that I need to off-put. And my premonition was as I was going to walk into a space, a family member's house, and there would be too much energy for me to be able to hold. And that's ultimately what came to happen. And it was so much energy in that room when I finished walking my dog, and I'm like, oh, I can't draw. And I shared that with you, and you brought out this wonderful CD.
Yeah. I don't have it.
A CD, and showed me something that it just inspired you to think about. And I was commenting, and this is where I thought it was gold. When we are learning these new ways to kind of approach how we are in the world, how useful it is in our toolbox to have images and tools that are something we already understand and can recycle or redesign. So we have a point of reference to use with whatever we're trying to kind of work through, or I love how you said unfold.
Right. And so right here, I'm going to point my pencil at it, is one of
Right.
those flower of life mandalas that you can make with a CD. And so things in a toolbox, it can be a physical toolbox, like
Absolutely.
for real, but it can also be a, what did I say, a metaphorical toolbox
Mhm.
where, you're imaginarily opening it up. And, but, not everyone really understands that they already possess these tools. You don't have to be an artist or a musician or I don't know, you just have to be open to the possibility of learning a
Yeah.
few tools.
In my work, we see this every single day, and all the different fields that I actually work in. And what I want to say is, with the most compassionate, loving heart, I only see people as creatives, and that we have lost the ability to be in that kind of that neutral brain where we can bring in energy, use what it is we know, and let inspiration guide us. I think there are a lot of people who don't really recognize how many tools they already have in their toolbox. And the toolbox, the metaphorical toolbox that we speak of, is not full of paintbrushes, although includes paintbrushes. I mean, mine will have a paintbrush in it, but some of them are just words. Some of them are just actions or symbols. So in my toolbox, my physicalized toolbox has dancing, singing, but the emotional toolbox that I carry with me, what I call stop, drop, and roll when I'm getting into any difficult situation. One of my biggest tools that I teach is breath work attached to story. When does our body behave in a certain pattern that is very familiar and sets us into a space or an emotion that is familiar, regardless if the situation warrants that or not? So in my toolbox, I have learned to teach myself to pattern down or pare down or power down through my breath and where I put my voice, and I instantly shift. This is available to the creatives or the non-creatives. But at the end of our work, what they'll recognize that in of itself, the art of breathing is art. It uses our body to express itself. That's how we do it. Squish.
I don't know if it's too soon, but I want to tell everybody that you and I are going to be collaborating and combining efforts, and we're gonna be hosting. We're crafting an offering. The first offering might be a little smaller than the offerings that happen afterwards. That's what I'm thinking, and we're thinking of offering a bite into this, what are we talking about of the art of expressive living, right? And creating an art piece would be part of it. Developing a toolbox would be part of it.
Mhm.
Identifying what is in each person's toolbox by giving the experience of the different tools.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I
So,
think what you do, you have to start with a blank canvas.
right.
And we have to put ourselves in that space to kind of, how do we see ourselves? How do we want to see? What colors do we want to use? I can't help but get giddy over the excitement of, I'm not personally scared. So that was a breath, a comma, and a pause.
Mhm.
I'm not personally scared of kind of breaking myself down just a little bit and kind of starting over and saying, okay, how do I want to feel today, as if I was a blank canvas? But for not all of us, that may not be completely safe. It might be a little scary. It might be a little wacky and woo woo. So there's a million and one ways we can do that. And so I find this as being incredibly inspirational, and what a beautiful opportunity for anybody who just wants to understand themselves a little bit better and make contact with other people who can communicate at the same level. whether it's through paintbrushes or yoga or breathing
Right.
or talking. But so much of what we talk about is getting out of the really head driven headspace and seeing what the hands do and seeing what the body does and seeing what the soul wants to say when there's no clog in the drain, so to speak, that there's no a cog in the wheel. That's not really what I want to say. Stepping on the hose when the water doesn't come out of the hose because somebody's stepping on the hose.
Yeah.
That freedom that we can create together, getting out of our own way.
And I'm seeing, every time we talk, I can visualize a whole series of different art explorations from, a card that is this size, right, with a CD, and there's maybe 7 of them, to a canvas that's maybe this size that is sparked by a menu of put 5 lines. They can do, and where they start and finish, and everybody's looks different, in 5 circles, like a drawing experience, to taking tissue paper and tearing it randomly on a larger canvas. And these are all soulscapes.
Yeah.
So like, every time we speak, I get closer and closer and closer to what we're going to be offering.
Oh yeah.
But
I don't want to tell you what went through my mind.
Right. But the one that is, and also another one is movement to art. So moving, and then there are movers and there are artists, and then they switch. I mean, there's so many. The buffet is grand, but for our first offering, I think it's small.
Yeah. I got excited. You sent chills up my spine because between you and I, we have taught decades.
Oh yeah.
And maybe the versions of, and we both taught, school, we've taught younger kids. So we know what it is to talk and be clear, especially with directions. And I don't think, I'm absolutely positive, behind a shadow of a doubt, talking to an adult is one thing. Talking to an adult about something that they haven't done before or don't have a huge understanding of, that is something that only true artists can speak to. We
Right.
have a way, and the teaching element have a way of making it very, very simple. And I heard this today, and I'm going to share it out loud for the first time.
Okay.
So much of what we're going to do is the idea of play with art, play with soul, play with soulscaping, just play. There's no desired outcome per se. There's no grade. There's no end point. Soulscaping, the art form that you and I are so interested in doing, something that is a beautiful thing that pretty much you created, and I'm just getting to be a part of it, is a never-ending journey of showing up as you are every single day, as if it's a new chapter or a new stroke on the canvas. And what a beautiful way to look at life, especially if you want to live your life a little bit differently. I do see it as a very full composite, a very full outline of how to navigate your day. That these simple, what we can do in a very short time is just slowly shift people's perceptions on how to perceive themselves while they're communicating or expressing, which may not use words. I think it's a game changer for well, it feels that way for me.
So I think we need to give ourselves an outline of when we are going to be making this offer, so that the people listening can either check back in to another episode, or I can put it in the show notes, but here's what I do know. I do know that I will be in DC in both July and September.
Because of your family.
Because my boys both are living and working in DC.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm really game for September. I think September for me, I have that long patterning with the start of school. So the start of school pattern that goes along in my body says I need new clothing. Like I need a new first day of school outfit. I need to feel good. And there's a romanticism in the air. So if I was going to be trying something new, like a new school year, that would make a very nice little connection. something familiar to do something different.
Yes, and it probably opens it up to people who are sending their kids to school.
For the first time in a very long time.
Right. Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So much of what we talk about, and again, it's like we have a private audience of you and me when we talk behind I'm not on camera, is what our bodies need so desperately right now is a full dusting, an internal dusting, meaning let's reset if we were a bed or a table to kind of clean the sheets and reset a new table. Because I just think the last year and a half, even the best of us have gotten a little stuck in some tough times, negative energy, no matter what your verbal scape is, whether you are a yogi, an artist, or a philosopher, or a math teacher, all of us are experiencing some similar heaviness. And so much of our work really does revolve around how to lighten up, using all those colloquialisms, all of those words to have that experience of freeing ourselves. And I think I think September is kind of just in the stars for that.
Sounds good. Yeah, I'm really I would do it tomorrow.
Well, so would I. So would I.
Everybody signs up right now. Right. So, Marni, do you have anything else to say before I say goodbye to everyone?
I do have this little inclination and this little, intuitive like that wants to be talked. I just wanted to say just for people, because I think it can be so off-putting or a little bit intimidating when you talk about a toolbox,
Mm.
because I think in the therapeutic world, a toolbox is a set of life skills, a
Oh,
little bit of cognitive behavioral therapy. What are my go-tos when I'm in a time of struggle?
oh, okay.
And what I really want to make sure
Uh-oh.
is that we understand. Yeah, that's my computer. Really want to understand is that in this toolbox we're creating would include that, but more importantly, be talking more about coming from a place of freedom, coming from a place of beauty, coming from a place of almost a new pure self. Like we can reorganize and rebirth ourselves every single day. There's a new chapter to us. So I hope for people as we craft, it's just an opening of today is the day I choose. I choose to create my life a little bit better, even if it's awesome. It's just going to be a little bit better. And everything feels like layered on texture of yum. That's what I want. That's the world I want to live in.
Sounds good.
Yummy, yummy.
Before Sebastian walks in the door and makes a lot of noise, I'm going to say this part. Thank you, everybody, so much for watching and listening as we share our love of fun, connection, collaboration, and art. It would be great if you subscribe by clicking the button and being a facilitator of conversation.
Yeah.
I pose an open-ended question to each artist in true Caroline style, which is send me a one-sentence blurb about you and what you love to do. And Marni and I, we're really creating something that's going to be cool and would love for people to join us. And
Yeah.
love to hear from you if you're interested as well. So you can leave a message in the comments or drop one of us a line, and I'll put where to get in contact with Marni
Great.
and me. So bye, everybody. Thank you so much, Marni.
You're welcome. Thank you so much, Karen. I'll talk to you later.